Hi.
Hey, Wendy. You know what? I think I got to go back out because I think I signed. Did I sign? Yeah, I signed in on Joey's. I'm gonna have to go back out and oh shoot. Were you able to be on before me, or did you come on when I came on?
I was on before you.
Okay, I'm gonna try to just. I'm gonna make you the host. I think.
Okay.
I'm gonna make you the host. It's no big deal, and then I'm gonna drop off. I'll drop off and come back on my own Zoom.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, Wendy.
Okay. Do I have to?
You're the host now, and it doesn't really mean anything, but you can make me the host if you want
Okay.
by going, hovering over my name on the right-hand side.
I'm on my iPad, so.
Well, it doesn't really matter.
Oh, make host. There we go.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Okay.
It's no big deal. Yeah.
There you go.
You did it. You did it. Perfect. So do you have a lot of cats?
I just have the one as my permanent cat.
Permanent?
And he's a little jealous of the Fosters. I can tell. Gonna have to give it a little rest after my batch of foster kittens.
So how many Fosters do you have?
Just 2.
And how long would you keep them?
Well, they're about 4 weeks, or 4 or 5 weeks, so I've probably got about 3 weeks left on them before
And
they're
then you adopt them out, or?
Well, I went through Stray Cat Alliance, so they should be able to adopt them out. Although there's a lot of cat pictures on my social media right now. So I'm hoping one of my friends falls in love with them because.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good.
Excellent.
Good. Yeah. But I was hoping because the Fosters are pretty bonded. It would be nice if they went to a place together.
Oh, Where do you live, Wendy?
Sherman Oaks.
That's what I thought. You were out in LA area.
Yeah.
How long does that take to get to LA? Like 45 minutes?
Yeah, if in really good traffic, I can get there in like 20-30.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Down. Yeah, like down, like Hollywood is super close.
Okay.
And then I've got all the canyons to get to the west side. And it really is a nice location. And I feel like I'm close to it, but I'm not in all of it. It's not quite so busy.
Right.
So anyway.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. How is everyone?
Pretty good.
Excellent.
Apologies, I'm in the process of cooking at the same time. Please don't be offended.
Did you bring something for everyone, Marty?
I did. I've got like a roast chicken.
Okay.
We're good to go with mashed potato. Come on down, dudes. Oops.
I wish.
It'll be a pleasure. I've even got wine.
Nice.
Done.
Good day for you. This is a good day.
It is, guys. I completed a super rough draft, but I wrote the ending of Browntown. Huzzah!
That's
Today.
awesome. Total.
Hey.
Fantastic.
I mean, dude, super rough. But anyway, look at me
Smile there.
celebrating. Cheers.
Cheers.
So, what kind of red do you have, Marty?
It's Gigondas.
Of course it is. Yeah.
You can't go wrong with Gigondas. It's always good.
What is it closest to? I'm not familiar with that.
So it's from the Rhone Valley in France.
Okay. Yep.
It's a village in Rhone, and they just don't do bad wine. So if you ever see Gigondas, it's this little village. You can't go wrong.
Yeah. No, I seriously will. That sounds tremendous. I love it.
It's a good tip.
I like it and I need it. So red wine is my thing. So I get it.
All right, dude. I highly recommend it. It's not too expensive. It's probably a bit more in the States. It's probably like $30 ish,
Sure.
but it's worth it.
Yeah. No, I get it. Then that's one of those special occasion wines.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's worth it. I like it. Cool. Yeah. So does anybody want to go first? Need to go first?
I don't need to go first. I'm cooking.
You're cooking. All right. Fair enough. I actually had your notes up first, but I will save them.
I can
Janet,
go first if it's convenient. There's no problem.
It
Absolutely.
makes no difference to me. Janet, do you want to go first?
I
Okay,
would
cool.
love to. Yeah.
We'll put you pickle in the middle. We'll make you go first. Cool. So how long has this been gestating? And I know your initial question was, can you go forward with it in regard to the movie? But well, I'll answer that in a second.
I wrote this before that movie came out, and I can tell you I pitched it to some exec, and he said, stop. After I did my log line, he says, we're doing, and I can't even remember who it was, we're doing something similar. So that was my first hint that people thought it was similar to that movie. Is it too similar?
Well, the setup of an older woman, whatever we want to say, like going back to college and antics ensue, that's the thing that's similar. But
Yes.
I actually watched the beginning of that movie because of this.
Okay.
After I had read yours, and I think the intro of the character, where they go with it, none of it was similar after that, besides the fact that yours is a series and not a feature film. So I wouldn't worry as much about it. I think you have, actually, to me, it was a more interesting main character. I actually shut the Melissa McCarthy movie off because I was bored. I didn't find it very funny, and I didn't think it was very engaging.
And I want my woman is more like someone who's discovering the world, and she's not like this goofy person who's, she's quite serious and misinformed, or, she really hasn't lived her life, let's say.
No, she hasn't. She's been very sheltered. She had this life that she thought was beatific until it wasn't. And, she's kind of clueless, but she's not dumb, right? So I enjoyed her for that reason. She's very much a fish out of water.
Right.
And as you said, she's almost like a little kid, like discovering herself, and yet she has the maturity and some life experience, which is great.
And I really want her to learn from her millennial friends, and the millennial friends to learn from her. Like this, that's what I love about multi-generational stuff, is we all come with different experiences and we can learn from each other, type of thing.
Yeah, and I think that is naturally set up in this, and there's room, obviously, to expand on that as you would go into future seasons, which I read your packet too, and you obviously do that. Yeah, so I think this has vitality for the reasons that we were talking about. Number one, it's very different except for the initial setup. I'll give you another example, and you probably heard some of these pitches too in your roadmap stuff, is there's a lot of exploration of in vitro fertilization and families that are begun that way. Some of it comedic, some of it dramatic, some of it from the dad that, you know, spawned 400 kids, right? And some of it from the mother's perspective. Point being that just like with your niche, shall we say, is there's a lot of room for story with that one basic concept.
Yeah. Okay.
So yours is more niche maybe than that. This is a broader topic, but someone getting back into life through the vehicle of college at a later date and kind of discovering who they are because the rug is pulled out from underneath them. There's tons of room to explore things with that.
Okay.
So did you have anything that you wanted to kind of pinpoint and bring up? Because again, I want to give you what you need.
What we talked about was my main concern about it. The other concern I have is with all college series, how long can you be in the same, how long can you be, how many years could you be a freshman and then move on to a sophomore? You know, like how long could this span?
Sure. So in terms of seasons, I think you give this a strong 4 seasons. And, I think there's a vehicle to where it could expand, sure. But because of where we are with series and TV, things are more short-term now anyway, unless it's like a Game of Thrones or someone gets lucky with like a Modern Family.
So let me ask you this. I've been watching Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and there's like 20 episodes in that first season. Mm-hmm. So I've been thinking, I've had this in my mind that everything's been reduced from what the old network amount, and now it's about 13. Yeah. But when I saw 20, I thought, oh, I don't have to limit what I want to do because maybe it could be more than that. Because that's what I would like to do, is have a lot more episodes, but do one per season, one grade per season, if you will.
Yep. So then you do that. And what happens then is, like, if it sells to Netflix, they either say yes to 22 episodes or you're cutting it in half, which is great either way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So as long as, which I think that you do, or you will, right? I think as long as you have enough story to convey it, to run you through, a freshman year that takes up 2 years of TV time, you're fine. No one's going to care about that part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the key is to have enough, vehicle to, enough gas in the tank, I guess, to get there. So.
Now, I did think about like having them move into an apartment later, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I think that takes away the fun of the series. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, and I think so too, because, let's be real. She has the money or the access to money to, she practically owns the college as it is. So she can do whatever she wants. But
we're going to have him cut her money supply off.
I figured, yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. I just think it's a college movie, and you go through college. I guess you could do grad school. I thought about that, but then I thought not really. Like, that's not the fun of it.
Right.
The fun is that you've got 18-year-olds hanging with this older woman.
Yeah, and, the spin-off or the future show could be her into the workforce, and dealing with millennials in a regular job. So, like, there's places to go with it after that aren't grad school too.
That would be hilarious. Okay.
It would.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there was that, I forget the name, but the last Nancy Meyers movie where Robert De Niro went to like that Google company.
The Intern.
Yeah.
You know what? I love that movie, but I felt like they didn't use him. This is what I felt I didn't like about the movie. He should have solved problems for them because he was so bright. Yeah. And they just kept making him seem like he was constantly. He was brilliant. So I kept thinking, he's going to save them. He's going to, and it never really developed like that. It was interesting. But yes, exactly like that. That'd be fun.
Yeah. So that could be something to explore in the future too, which could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that way, if like the younger cast from a production standpoint gets burned out in 4 seasons, you can go and put her in with a whole new group of younger people that are even a generation almost.
Right.
Yeah. That's fun. So I had notes or thoughts rather on both the pilot itself and then on your packet too.
Okay.
So for the pilot,
Yes.
this is terrible, but I had to say it because it's just so bad. It's funny. So when she has she's throwing the rolls and stuff, which I love. She could say something like, "Quit trying to butter me up." It's just too good to leave.
Okay.
Yeah. Or some reflection. You get where I'm going with
Yeah.
it. Like Richard's trying to stop her.
Yeah.
So this is a question just because, people look at it from different points of view. So Valerie, does she have to be African American? Does it matter? And does that play up something of like the black servant? You know what I mean? Like I was a little bit like, just for your sake, concerned maybe.
She does not have to be, but she does come into play in the other episodes. At the end of the season, she goes on this prank with everybody else, and it's the black kids that are arrested. And then she goes back to Valerie, and Valerie really says, you're my best friend, but you're insensitive. It's her racial coming of age as well.
Yeah, and I liked it for that purpose, and I did write that note in linear fashion before I read the packet. It's just a point of discussion.
Okay.
I like her for that reason. It's almost like Valerie's not a servant at all. She took this job because it's something that she's really good at doing, right? And they ended up becoming friends.
What if you think about what if she's her next door neighbor? Would that be that we can still have that racial awakening, but it's not a servant?
Yeah, that's better, because then she's like,
okay,
Felicia Rashad from the Cosby Show, successful,
Yeah.
But on equal ground, except that she's not, because our heroine is clueless about what do you mean it's different for you? You know what I mean? Which is great. I think that's a good thing to play with.
Okay.
Because in a way, it's like then you're framing her as like she doesn't see color, but she doesn't see color. You know what I mean? Yeah, which is cool.
Exactly it.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing in the pilot, but I think it's a very easy fix.
Okay.
But the only problem, right, I had with it was the setup for her going to college.
Okay.
Meaning specifically this. I think that if Valerie says to her, this is my version, it's the bad version, but you'll get it. What is the one thing that you always wanted to do but never did?
Right.
I think that alone would help us. But I think you could add a beat or two there to kind of make her think like, well, before my whole life has been Richard. But before then, I thought I was going to go to college.
So I don't have that? Like that seems similar.
You have it, but I think it needs to be a little bit more. It's like she comes to that resolution on her own really fast.
Okay.
And instead, I think it should be more like she's buried that dream so deep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really the note there. So I think you can just extend on it.
So do you think it's that she needs to be prodded a little bit more, or time needs to pass?
I don't think necessarily time, but she needs to be prodded. It needs to be like really dragged out of her.
Okay.
And then there needs to be like, once she verbalizes it, then there's the pause of like, but there's no way I can do that. Look at me, I'm whatever.
Right.
So just play with that scene, because I think you have room to extend it on both sides of it.
Okay. Yeah.
So page 16, the reality show, I wrote, I thought that was really funny.
Okay.
On page 19, this is when they're in the cafeteria and Lola sees Chet. She can call him over, which I think would be funny. Once again, it shows her cluelessness, but I think we're really going to fall in love with her really quickly because she means well, right, in everything she does. She's not dumb,
no, she's not dumb. In fact, she's, organized. She's done that society work, which takes a lot of skills and.
Yes. Yeah, it does. In a former life, I worked with a lot of the elite of New York, like these housewives that practically run businesses because of the reasons that you're saying, and there's something really great about that.
Yes. Yes.
On page 23, I had a little bit of an issue about her not knowing Jay-Z. I feel like he's one of those people that transcend, and she might not recognize that that's his music, but she's at least heard of him. So maybe
what if she knows him as the husband of Beyonce?
That's funny.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all it needed. It's just like, we don't want to make her too clueless. Yeah. So I wrote this on page 26. It might be funny for Richard to call out for Lola, but then she doesn't answer.
Okay.
And on page 26 too, you have an extra scene heading, but then no scene.
Oh, nice.
No, it happens. It's probably just hung there for framework and you just didn't need it, so no big deal.
Thank you.
Page 27, I think, just cut to her throwing as she's retelling the story of throwing the rolls. We don't need to hear about it again because we saw it.
Okay.
And only for timing's sake, it kind of just happened in our minds. Yeah. On page 30, then, have Lola step out. Yeah. But I like the setup overall.
Tell me, step out.
I don't remember.
Okay, I'll figure it out. When I read it, I'll know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, otherwise I like the setup and I like the push into it. I love that she's just going for it, you know, like into this world. The scene of her walking in and seeing how small everything is great.
Right.
And her adapt to it. Yeah, it's cute. I think that you have something there to explore. Because exploring what is really more of a dramatic issue through comedy, I mean, that's the best stuff. So
Right.
Yeah, I think it will be fun. In terms of the packet, I had a couple things. I think if you want, it could be fun to use some millennial language like throughout, like woke, which I hate. I hate that word with a passion, but
What word?
woke.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, or lit. That's another one.
Okay. Fire.
The other one that I heard that I actually had to ask one of the millennials in the office, I'm like, is this a real thing? Is "You're my life."
You're my life.
Yeah. I was like, are you guys all saying this? Like, that's terrible. Anna, you're my life. It's like, what? Anyway.
Is that like more than a best friend or what?
It's like whatever, like it was Jana, right? And I said that to her. It'd be like she gave me something or she gave me a piece of advice, and whatever it is was like so great for me that I say, oh, Jana, you're my life. Like, that's just the best thing ever.
You know what?
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
And Jana is my life. I want to be clear about that. But, yeah.
I find it so interesting. The millennials, the women will call each other babe. And I find that, like, I think it's sweet, but I can't wrap my head around it as this older person. You know, they call them honey and my love and stuff, and it's just.
Yeah.
And another one I like is "I hate your face." That's one that I've heard that I think is so funny.
It's really funny.
I'm also going to nominate low-key obsessed. I'm low-key obsessed with that. It's like, you're obsessed or not.
Right.
Pick one.
Obsessed, yeah. That's good. Okay.
I think it lifts the packet a
Well,
little.
that's a very good, suggestion.
Because you're doing the comedy. So with the packet, I would, because of the way that you have it formatted, I would bold the character names because we're meeting them before they're like any character description.
Okay.
It also will help because otherwise it's a little bit like text with pictures, you know, and we're not sure what we're getting into till we're into it. So that will just help a little bit.
Okay. Do you have any suggestions for formatting?
Yeah, what I typically would instruct and or recommend is a brief summary, which you have, a log line, and then a brief summary of kind of what the series is.
Right.
Pictures throughout are good, which you did. I think it's more helpful to have kind of the main characters first, because then once we get into reading about them, we at least have an idea of who they are.
Okay.
Some people put them at the end. I just think intuitively, if I know, oh, Lola, that's who I'm following, and then I read about her, it just helps.
I agree.
Yeah.
Someone just told me the other day to put them at the end, and I did for that person, but I don't prefer that. If I was the reader, I would want to see them and read it, and then I could go back to the front if I needed to remind me even.
And that's what I recommend for that reason, because otherwise what I do when I get the packet is I go to the back. Who the hell's Lola, you know?
That's true.
You know what I mean? So I don't think it's you have to be adamant either way. I just think it's a more logical flow. And not that you didn't do this, but I will just say for everybody, limit the characters that you put in the character description to just the main ones, because everyone else will come out in time.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've seen people do is like they'll literally have the 4 main characters, long description, and then a page of like everybody else. And like, that's too much. I'm not going to remember Andrew, who has 2 lines. You know what I mean?
That's interesting, because I think I sort of did that in my Bible for Right to Counsel. So I want to look at that.
Well, a Bible, too, is a little different, right? And I know we use the words interchangeably, but for sake of basically pitching the expansion of an idea, I think less is more in that sense. Yeah. You know, so that way, too, then what you could do is, let's say in the episode synopsis and some of the season arcs, if there are characters there that don't really appear as your main 4 or 5, you can just give a brief parenthetical of who they are. Yeah. Or an introduction, like new student Gina, then okay, we get it. Yeah. So episode 3, what is the impetus of her kind of breakdown that she calls him? She calls Richard, just basically either come get me or to make sure that she's still relevant for him. And it just seemed a little bit, not necessarily against character, but we've got to earn that moment, I guess.
So I need to have a reason. A reason is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Because otherwise it's like she comes out so strong and so definitive, and I get it, it might just be time, Because we've all had that moment.
She does keep expecting him, she's sure she knows him.
Yes.
And it doesn't work out. So, but I'll check that. That's a good point.
Yeah, because I think it can be funny too, because that's a moment of breakdown, but we've all had it in some way.
Yeah. And maybe she can think of an excuse, like maybe checking on her cat or something like that,
And that's great, and there's room obviously for humor with that too. Because one of the things I thought of is, like when Richard finally does come, which is episode 11.
Yes.
Maybe he comes kind of under the same auspices. Like maybe they have to do something together that's related to money.
Okay.
Like I need your signature, but it has to be in person. Something like that.
Yeah. I was just thinking if I did the cat thing, maybe they kidnap the cat in one of the episodes.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Hide it in the dorm. Yeah, why would he come? Yeah, that's a good point.
And you could make a really terrible joke. How come he gets all the pussy and they go grab the cat? It's fun.
Oh my God, that's good.
Well, because he's a cheating bastard. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that you changed the music. That was a really clever thing. That works really well.
Good.
I like that a lot. But yeah, those are kind of my basic notes. I know the biggest one is what we talked about up front. Like, is there room for this? And yeah, I think that there is.
So if I pitch it, Justin, do I say up front what I'm afraid they're going to say? Like, you may think this sounds like this, but it's not. Here's the reasons. Or do I just do I address that, or do I let them bring it up and then counter it?
I don't think you address it in a defensive way, because I don't think that's ever a good way to pitch. I just had someone do that to me, and that was one of the notes. It's like,
Well, I mean, like say this isn't like, this may sound like initially this, but it's not. Here's the reasons why. Or do I just let them say, that sounds sort of like, and I can say, well, here's the difference, or Do I just address the differences so that it's clear?
I think you address the differences. So you say something like, 'cause what's the name of that movie? Life of the Party, right?
Life of the Party, yeah.
So you would say, like, it takes the very core idea of life at the party and expands it in this way, and she's so different in these ways, you know. And then you're off on your story and setting it up. But you've addressed the.
So I can address it in the comps.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
You know, because I think gone are the days where, like, you don't use film in a TV show comp and vice versa, because we're all in this mishmash of what story is right now, which is great.
So I used Community. That was somebody else's suggestion. I know what Community is. I've watched a few episodes. I wasn't really into it, and I didn't think it was really like that, but I did see what they meant. It was adults going to community college. But I do like my Friends reference, although I know that's pretty old now. There's a lot of people who don't really know what Friends are, the show. But did you like that reference? What if I say Life at the Party meets Friends, but it's not so white, and Rachel is 50?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's cute, and I think it sets up a great framework.
Okay.
And Friends is an iconic show, so old or not.
It is. It's great. I just know that some of the younger people don't know it anymore.
Yeah, but thanks to Netflix, which it's on, it's like, I think that there's sort of a rediscovery, at least with the basics of it.
Right.
It's not going to have the impact, of course, that it did for us, so to speak.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Beautiful. Thank you, Justin. Hey, I heard Joey said you're not going to do this next month.
No, I don't think so. I wasn't going to do it in May, as you probably know, and Marty certainly knows, but then I was badgered /
Will you be badgered again, or is this a firm no for June?
It probably needs to be
crowbarred.
maybe toward the end of June,
Okay.
You know, kind of thing, but I would need at least 2 weeks to, like, be okay.
I don't even know how you do it, because I see you on the schedule in so many different capacities. I know it's time consuming, not only to read but to do these sessions. So I don't blame you, but I just wanted to know, because I got to set up what I want to do in June.
No, I appreciate that. That's a huge compliment. So I would say you can go with someone else, and I'll be on the schedule again for sure.
Have you ever thought of this? Like, what if us four wrote a series together? Like, have we ever done that? You know, like had a writer's room with us, our little group or something.
So I think that's a great idea to talk to Joey and Dorian about, because that would be so much.
That is a great idea, Jana. That's like, it's like the incubator was like an organic thing. It's kind of like where do we go after this? That's ingenious, dude.
I'll ask
Brilliant.
Joey.
Yeah, and I think it would be fun, because then it's created by the four of us, and
right, and then we try to pitch. We could all pitch it, and I think that would be a ball. But it was that first session with you, right?
It's just really intriguing idea. I think that's really cool, dude.
Yeah, and then next Sunday, is the last of our little group, which is crazy that it's come up that fast.
No, it's gone by fast. Okay, my time's up.
It's been months, man.
Thank you.
Well, in some ways, yeah, but even that seems fast. It's crazy.
It does, dude. It does.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank
See
you.
you, Anna.
So, Marty, Wendy, do one of you want to go next?
I'm not fast. Wendy, it's entirely up to you.
Well, have you go next, Wendy. Why not?
Okay, yeah.
I got you up. So I know in terms of page count, you didn't necessarily get super far, but
Yeah.
I have a couple of thoughts about the pages you write. And then I have some interesting notes about wolves that I thought I could just throw out to you and see if anything sticks. I don't know why my brain turned to that. I guess I was excited by what I read. So that's a good thing.
Cool.
So on page 1, Arlo's advice of never turn, like when they see the wolf, is great. And make sure that comes back around somehow. Maybe it's either before he dies or is injured or something in her, when she's confronted later. That's just such a cool line. And it's true. You're actually not supposed to turn your back. You knew that,
Yeah.
So when she is beginning her first transformation, I think you could have a beat or two more here. Like, for example, I wrote down maybe they need to clear space because she's not sure how she's going to react as an animal, shall we say. You know what I mean? And we're not going to know exactly what Arlo's doing, but he knows. Because maybe there's a tendency to kind of go crazy and, you know, fight the change that's going on inside. I'm making it up. You'll come up with something better, but that's just a visual thing to do. Maybe even have her add a line like before, does it hurt? And we're not sure yet what she's referring to, you know? So keep the audience in the dark just that much more, because there's a kind of a universal truth about any kind of change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I just think you could expand that a beat or two more, but it's a great scene and it was fun to read. And then the only other note on the actual writing was on page 8, I don't think you needed her to say thank you. Maybe she could just say good girl. You know, almost like she's addressing the two selves that she has.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of cool. I kind of like that.
Talking to her animal self.
Exactly, yeah, which I thought was a cool thing, or could be. So your writing is really concise and it's really good. I'd read things that you'd written before. This is one of my favorites, just in terms of, I think you really got right into the story and these characters, which is great. I would say this for the future. I didn't see it in what you wrote, but just something to keep in mind because it was something that was pointed out to me about a long time script that we have internally, and that is this. Make sure that you have Emily and Sophia talk a little bit differently. Like, just be careful that their vocal patterns don't match.
Yeah, and I think, because I do see them as very different people. Because I think Sophia is much more rough around the edges.
Yeah.
Like, she'd swear where Emily wouldn't, wouldn't swear much.
Yeah, and they'll you know, as they get to know each other, you know, they might reflect each other later, but up front, it's just one of those things to kind of notice. Yeah, so because I could see how they could end up blurring kind of together without you intentionally, you know, thinking that they would. So just thought to point that out.
Yeah.
You could lay out some of the genetics even more bluntly as well. Okay. I don't know that necessarily you need to, but it can't hurt because it's a science that most people aren't going to be super familiar with outside of the very basics.
I was trying to figure out when, and this is where I want to push for at least a first act for our last session, because I'm trying to figure out, I don't want to like hit people with such a wall of science.
Right.
And a wall of my probably dodgy reading of science.
Sure.
I totally admit that.
Yeah, but just enough to understand the basics of what this might mean, if that makes sense, right? So that's all. In other words, if you're going to use it, give us something that's meaty and interesting, right? And I'm thinking more along the lines of like Jurassic Park. But that certainly wasn't a science movie, but we got the basics with that dumb little cartoon of like how they extracted the DNA, right?
Yeah, that was, I'll watch that. I've watched it a billion times, but I'll watch it again. Good excuse.
Yeah, so that could be fun, not that it needs to be a cartoon, but some simple explanation of like, oh, that's possible, even if your science isn't super deep or, which it doesn't need to be.
No.
So the other thing I thought of too is you could have her kind of, however you want to visualize this, find Sophie in that crowded Wilshire section of LA. Like, I'm not saying she goes out and she sniffs, because I think that would be eye-rolling, right? But he has the animal instinct to go out there, which is great. But then give her something. I don't know if it's her sight. I don't know if it's her hearing. You'll come up with the right thing. But
so just make that more of a set piece.
I think so, because that's such a cool idea, you know. Because I know like a wolf, for example, their sense of smell is just ridiculous. So, you could use that or any of the senses that feel right, because she's not a wolf, obviously, and she's not totally human either. She's the best of both, almost. So you can take wolf traits and then enhance them as you already would. But have fun with that, whatever it is. Maybe visually she can pinpoint her out of and she's highlighted in a different color. I'm making it up. But you can do something fun.
Yeah, I can definitely play around with that and try to figure it out as more of a set piece.
Yeah, and it could be a camera thing too, like they zoom in together, whatever. I don't know, but you'll come up with something. So do you have any other thoughts or questions? And then I'll give you otherwise my little wolf points that I looked up to see if that helps you in any way.
I'm just feeling like I was burning through a fair bit of setup. Did it feel too fast, too slow? Other than...
I think the only points that might have felt fast, just for the sake of I wanted to have a beat more, was the 2 points I talked about. The one up at the front where she has the first transformation, and then maybe the science, just to be sure that there's a foundation for that, so you don't have to go back to it, if that makes sense to say it that way.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no, I like the speed of it, and I'm already getting a richness of the character, even in a short amount of pages, which is a great testament to the story that you're laying down and the way that you wrote Arlo, for example. Even his first line, we totally get who he is, which is great.
Cool. Okay, wolf stuff.
Yeah. So no healthy wolf has ever been recorded of attacking a human being. I didn't know that.
Interesting.
They don't. They avoid human beings, which is interesting. The only time a wolf is ever attacked is if it's injured or sick.
And that would make sense, and I would have to say the werewolves probably do go after wildlife. That was why I had her drive up to Mulholland, is like, just in case I want to be away from people.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So it was an interesting fact, and it's like, well, then what does that mean if someone was a werewolf? I don't know, but it's like, maybe she's more inclined to not attack, and maybe a different werewolf is more sick because of the way that the genetics play out, and they would.
Yeah. And then I think some of the human mental sick.
Absolutely.
Can play over. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we're on the same page. That's why I was fascinated by these thinking in terms of story. It's like, because you're combining both. So they're mostly shy. They avoid humans. This was interesting too. So during the Lewis and Clark expedition, they actually observed that the wolves would follow the buffalo herds. They would literally travel with them, and they would kill off the small and the old and the fat and the diseased. And it was actually a good thing for the buffalo herd, because then there wasn't sickness spreading because the wolves took care of it, which I thought was interesting too. And just the fact that there was symbiosis between these two mammals that you wouldn't think necessarily interacted in such a way.
That's interesting.
God bless the wolf.
That takes me to a dark place, though. Because I'm thinking of like, and that could be like and I don't know if my story has room for it, but like the wolf that does kill off like a sick person.
Well, something to explore. If you find that your villain or whatever needs another edge, like it's based in nature then, or at least part of it. I'm sure you knew this, and this wasn't revelatory, but it's just an important note. And maybe this even shows up with the Sophia and her scene at the beginning. Wolves keep downwind always to avoid detection, because they're not especially fast. They're just clever. They're cunning.
Yeah. I think that plays to a little bit more of a set piece.
Sure. Yeah. Probably.
I think Sophia would want to test if she has instinct.
Yeah, exactly. Which would be fun. What a fun set piece. Can I sneak up on this, cop or.
Yeah.
whatever. So there's record of a wolf chasing a single deer for 13 miles, just wearing the animal out. But that persistence, usually wolves are known for really short chases because they're not endurance animals.
Mhm.
But I thought that was kind of a cool statistic. So again, if there's something that you could, take from that, whether it's someone hunting someone down and they won't give, there's a relentlessness there. It's interesting. They only kill 3% of the prey they hunt, which is I know predatory animals, their percentage is actually pretty low, but that was really low. Like they actually get more from carrion that they'll find or, happenstance versus actually hunting as far as like keeping their fill.
Yeah, actually small cats are like the deadliest predators out there.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually true. I've heard that before. And then the last little statistic I had, which is kind of vulgar, but again, might be interesting if you want to explore it, is wolves kill their prey by slashing the tendons of their hind legs. They literally have them bleed and stop in their tracks, right, for that reason. And then they'll maybe go for their throat or whatever to finish them off. But
cripple them first.
Yeah, but that's an interesting metaphor, if not overt kind of thing for you to maybe use if you wanted to. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's a lot to think of because I was also thinking of like the pack structure and usually it's just the alphas who mate. But I think that's one place where I'm just going to address it head on and say, okay, in this case, we're not wolves.
Well, it is kind of there's but there's kind of that power structure. But how does that marry with the human? That how would I say on the sexual spectrum? Besides some of the obvious, on a physical sexual spectrum, all of us are capable of everything, right? Where we gravitate to and all of that is beyond that, but on a physical level, right? So if you took that basic thing from humans and then you combine that with animals, there's something really interesting there. Which, like I was saying to you last week, I like the almost bisexuality or polysexuality that your werewolves had. It made a lot of sense.
You could have alpha women as well. Why not?
Yeah.
So then, if things are done in packs and groups, then taking that to that extreme like that makes a lot of sense.
Cool. So I just have to get working.
But hopefully you're having fun with it because it's showing up on the page really well. I'm really enjoying this one, and just this is definitely a have fun with one, and I feel like I've got an ending destination, and that's the most important thing for me. I don't like to be for TV you have to be rigid to the outline. That's just how it works, but I feel like for features you can explore a little bit more along the way. And so I would keep doing that because you might find something that like, oh, that happened earlier than I thought, or I can go down this tangent and it actually will make sense or what have you. So cool. Well, I'll look forward. I know that you'll get your Act 1 done for next week at least, so I'll look forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Awesome. And Mr. Marty, congratulations on finishing. I know I don't have the...
Hey, dude. Well, I mean, it's super rough. There's a few missing scenes and shit, but I wrote the ending, whatever.
Great.
And it felt good. It felt good. It's like the kind of last act. There were a few things, a few ideas have sprung up as well that I'm gonna, hopefully that came across that there's, it's kind of like an organic. The last act is an organic thing. It's changing. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and I think that's good, and that'll be fun then for you to. Now that you have kind of an ending you're shooting for, it's like now you can really build up to it. So.
Yeah. The key missing thing is, just before we get going, is basically the plant that trips Jimmy up. I haven't worked out that scene. You know that Harry has an idea for. So I need to write that. And anyway,
Mhm. Yeah. But that
how
was
did it come across, man? How did it read?
good. I mean, a lot of it is stuff that you absolutely need to just keep as is and stay. Like your action writing, for example, is really great and very visual without you
Oh, thanks, man.
overtelling like a director what to do, which is a trick. You know, it's action writing can be hard because usually a writer has a tendency to do one or the other. You know, it's like they overwrite it so that everything is choreographed, and that's just not fun then for a director to read, or it's vague enough to, or it's not just very good, where it's like, anyway, someone would have to work a miracle basically, and yours is like spot on, like right in the.
Dude, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. I mean, do you know, so just on that, I started reading a bit, just as a reference point, Kill Bill, the script. I don't know what bloody draft it was. I'm like, fucking, it's so ridiculously overwritten. I'm like, dude, are you insane?
But he's not, because he has the luxury of knowing he's going to direct it. So
yeah, I guess. I'm like, I guess, you know, he just like lets rip. I mean, it's like, you know, it's more like a novel.
right. Well, that's how he writes. I wouldn't recommend anybody read Quentin except for maybe a dialogue pass.
Yeah, dialogue's phenomenal. But I mean, I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, this is not screenwriting.
No,
if I did this, people would chuck it in the bin.
And that's true. And so that's, again, I wouldn't recommend him for that reason. Just like outside of certain character things, I don't recommend Sorkin either. It's such a specific voice that, like, if you're going to take it, and any of us, that is, not just you, but take it and try to copy or emulate any of it, it ends up becoming him.
Yeah, it's so bloody obvious because, yeah, it's so distinctive, isn't it? But yeah, I was shocked by how overwritten it was. It was nuts.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck, man? This is no good for me. But I can see what.
You would be better off reading, like, I'm trying to think of who for action. I'd have to think about that. But just in terms of actual writing, read like Steven Zalian's stuff. He won the Oscar.
I've not read. So remind me, what did he write?
He won the Oscar for Schindler's List, which is a phenomenal script.
Oh, yeah, amazing.
Not just the movie, but to see the actual, or read the actual writing. It's like poetry. It's gorgeous. Tony Gilroy is a great one to read.
Tony
Gilroy.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote the Bourne movies, and then Michael Clayton is a tremendous script to read.
Is he American or British? Gilroy.
American.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean they're great action scenes as well. So if they're well written, thanks,
so
Steve.
that would be who I'd probably recommend.
Thanks, man.
Top stuff well too. Yeah. Oh, what was I going to say?
How's your week anyway, dude? What have you been up to?
Good. It was a really crazy week.
Really? What's going on in your world?
Too much to get into, but I survived the week and came out on top of it, but there was some challenges there in the middle, both personally and some professional ones. So it's one of those weeks where you get a lot of information and you're like, really? Then that happened and then that happened? But then it's all going to turn out for the good.
Congratulations, man, for surviving.
Yeah. No, I have no complaints, I promise.
Okay.
So a few pagey things, right? Page 66, you have that line that's highlighted by Harry, maybe something I can, blah, blah, blah. I think you can have it because I think it's implied.
Cool. Thank you, dude.
And he's a less is more guy, right? More.
Totally. Yeah.
Page 68, that's the scene with Nina and Quasi.
Yep.
I think you could add a beat there because that's really there's only one other like kind of big scene for him. So my thinking is this, and I'll share something that's personal in my life, but not personal to me. But a family member, shall we say, was a drug user and had a moment where they broke down watching, what was the movie? it wasn't Beauty and the Beast. It was Dennis the Menace or something like that old, just like a regular sweet kids family film, but broke down crying. Like, and my sister who observed it was like freaking out because she had no idea why there was this emotional response to something that wasn't triggering that kind of a thing. So it's such a specific example, and then it escalated into something actually violent after that. That it might not toward a person. So again, like it all ended up working out, but it was quite a moment that you just don't forget. Like from the weird emotional depths to this like crazy, I'm going to rip a closet door off its frame and throw it across the room.
So it's just like a bizarre trigger that you could never, unless you're in that person's head, you'd never imagine that was the trigger.
So you could have something that maybe not that extreme, but like with Quasi too, where he becomes really emotional. And Tony's seen it before, and that's like part of the reason she doesn't want him around. But anyway, I just thought to share that if it triggers something that you could use, whether it's in that.
When they're having the pizza together.
Mm-hmm. When they're having the pizza, yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's really cool, man.
Because like if he's doing something with her, and then all of a sudden he starts crying, she might think, oh, maybe he really does miss me. But it's like, no, he's just, out of it. Yeah.
That's really sweet. Because I the fact that he's drug fucked, I didn't really write it in. That's got to be the beat there. Although it was meant to be like a rapprochement between the two of them, that, somehow there's this moment of connection, and then he dies. Then he gets wasted. Basically.
Well, I think they can keep the connection, but I think then it escalates into like.
No, it's much more nuanced, and it's thematic. It's beautiful, dude. Thank you. Cool. That's it's a really interesting beat. And it's really powerful. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Because that's more or less the situation I was telling you about. It was a sweet thing. My sister was watching the movie, and there was a bond over the story, and then it got crazy really quick, and it had nothing to do with her. Like now her memory of it is the violent moment after, not the weird, sweet, or not the sweet moment before the weird moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's that whole thing about, who do you believe? Who do you trust? Well, do you trust the way they behave? Kind of thing.
Well, that's it. And like for Nina, who isn't really close to her dad, and her dad's been out of her life now for at least a relatively long period of time.
Long enough, yeah.
Yeah, but he's still dad, and you still want to hope for the best. So he comes back, and pizza. She loves pizza, and oh my God, we're actually bonding. And then oh nope, now he's fucking whatever again, which is cool.
So a good friend of mine, I'll just tell you, she's always been estranged from her father.
Yeah.
But she's always looking to connect with him, and this has been for 20 years or whatever. And since she was a teenager, and she's in her 30s now, and she only just found out the other day. I mean, basically, he only turns up when it suits him. But she's always she's just happy to see him, even though he's a total fuck up and a nightmare. Right. And then she's only just found out that basically he's a spackhead.
Yeah.
And it's like, basically that's what he cares about, rather than. And anyway, it was very poignant. I didn't, and this was incidental to me writing about it, but it was just like, it made me think about, her name's Jess, and it's like similar story.
Yeah, and that's a very real example, almost across, addicts and their stories, or those that are children of addicts and their stories. Is like, he loved that more than me, but there was always that moment where he was clear for that minute, or she was clear for that minute, and I really saw them, and we had that, and then it was lost immediately after. And that's the
It's, if you can capture that, that's very realistic, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, and I think again, like this is a moment where you could play off of both, like you said, the nuance there.
Dude, that's a really great note. Thank you.
Yeah, I like the seagull imagery.
Thanks, man.
There's something cool about that. Overall,
it's meant to be a bit of Chekhov I threw in there.
Oh, sure. People that get it will love that. I think I think overall in these scenes, this isn't a criticism because you already know this, but the dialogue is a great placeholder. Now it's just about weaving in some nuance and maybe tightening it.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I definitely overwritten dialogue, and it's like, what the fuck? Like I said last week, it's like, I'm hating myself for that. But towards the end, it gets less dialogue heavy. Definitely, it's much more visual.
And the dialogue, it's not like it's even bad. We know what it's doing, and that was your point. And I'm glad that you, and I would say this to everyone, like, I'm glad you didn't stop yourself. You just said, well, this is what it's supposed to do. I'm going to keep going, and you did, which was good.
That's why I just trying to get to the end.
It was smart, because now you can go back and clean it up, so to speak.
Thanks, dude.
So on the bottom of page 72, I think Tony should just say Nina, because this is the one thing that's going to shake Tony is Nina. This is when she gets the call from the kidnapper. And Jimmy says, what's wrong? I think she just should go Nina. I think.
Yeah, she doesn't need to be kidnapped. Okay, cool, man.
Yeah. And then even Jimmy, we know that he's crooked, but even if he wasn't, he's going to know whatever it is, it's heavy and it's huge because of her face.
Thanks, dude.
You had that idea about a personal item of Nina's, which I thought was cool. So I had a couple of ideas, whatever you think.
Yeah.
Either it's like a baby item that she's kept with her, like her first rattle or her first, I don't know, whatever it is. It could be a surfing thing that Jimmy gave her. It could be something that the girlfriend gave her, so it's new.
Well, there's always that imagery with dolphins because it's so symbolic about their freedom in the ocean. You know, the joy. It's like the ultimate.
Yes, yeah.
Anyway, they're very symbolic of that kind of total freedom and joy, happiness, right?
Yes.
So.
It could be something that her dad gave her and left behind, which so it just depends kind of what you want it to mean, right? On top.
Yeah, man, that's good as well.
And then the last thing I thought of is it could be something connected to London, because she obviously wasn't excited to move initially.
Yeah, no, yes.
So any one of those things or combination might lead you to whatever it is, because that could be cool.
That just made me just think, oh God, sometimes I miss London, man. Now, even though it's wonderful down here, but it's like city boy at heart.
Sure. Yeah. I miss London too, and I've never even been there. So.
Anyway.
So I thought you could play with this too. So when he dies, it might be interesting if Tony hears about it over the speaker. You know, in other words, they don't identify him yet, but it's like we have a male, blah, blah, blah. And like the description is obviously going to hit her that it's probably.
It's bloody obvious. I did think of that, did cross my mind. I just wasn't sure. I just haven't written it out yet, but it's got it. That could be that struck me as the way to go, you know. Mm-hmm. She hears it, and there aren't many black guys in bloody Penzance anyway, you know, and it's almost certainly going to be him.
That's what I was thinking, and that'd be a cool visual for the actress to react to something auditory rather than her seeing something else. Yeah. I love Harry with the cricket bat. That was great.
Thanks, man. I like that as well. It's this week. Point of information, but there's this key cricket tournament. This starts this week as well. So and I love cricket. Everyone would go, you know, fucking baseball bat, but that's an American thing. We do a cricket bat.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And you can see that he has one in the car earlier, you know, and like whatever. It'd be easy enough.
Yeah, I definitely think I definitely need a beat on the fact that he's into cricket.
Yeah, and it could be real simple.
Yeah.
So when he has the fight, when he has the fight with Jimmy, I thought of this. I don't know if this is true, and you might know actually. But is there like a thing in either surfing or swimming where you can hold your breath and almost seem like you're dead because you're in such a kind of perfect state? So I thought it could be something that Jimmy does that, and Harry thinks, okay, that's it, but then it's not. You know what I mean? I'm trying to give you a beat there, but it maybe ties in somehow with his work on the water. I don't know if there is, but it just strikes me.
Well, there is, but it's so big wave surfers, they have this thing where they train themselves to be able to hold their breath.
Mm-hmm. I
But,
kind of thought so. That probably was in the back of my mind.
yeah, dude, that's really interesting you bring that up. But so they're very specialist kind of surfers. When I'm talking big waves, I'm talking
Right.
astronomical waves. They're just monumental, like, I don't know, it's 60 foot kind of waves. But
so it's in the middle of the ocean that they travel to. I know what you're talking about.
well, they're mostly in Hawaii. Like the one's called Jaws, for example. I don't know whether you might have heard of it. And Piahi in Hawaiian. But so the thing is, if you wipe out on those waves, they hold you down, and if you can't hold your breath, it will kill you. So,
wow. Yeah.
So that's a really interesting point. So maybe that could be his thing, that he's a big wave surfer. So it's a really interesting idea, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. It's very, very nuanced. That's your thing, dude. Master of nuance.
Well, I'll take it if that's the case. So on page 77, you had it right now that Tony is home with wine. And I don't think that's true while Nina's gone. I get that, like, she might be waiting for information because there's nowhere for her to go. But maybe she's, like, off duty and exploring something. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
she wouldn't be waiting. Yeah, waiting around. I agree with you. Yeah.
I think that the chief is probably going to want her to be, because she doesn't want her out emotional. But I don't think Tony would listen to that.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's a really key note. I need to think about that. Got any ideas, man? What would you suggest?
Well, the only thing I wrote is I don't know that you need to even address it except like this. Maybe she's off duty, and because she hears the thing on the radio that she assumes is Quasi, she's en route to ID him when she sees the flames. I think it could just be that simple. I don't think you have to even overthink it. And because the minute she hears that on the police scanner, she's going to be off to the B&B. And as she's en route to that, she sees flames and she turns, and then she sees that. So now she's almost posed between
the two.
Kind of cool.
That's really nice, man.
Yeah, it could be.
It just needs readjusting. That's really nice. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no, it's a simple thing.
What did you think of the fight sequence between Jimmy and Harry?
Oh, I liked it a lot. Yeah,
yeah,
I liked it a lot.
It's no. I've never written a fight sequence like that, so I enjoyed writing it.
Well, I think some of the better writers of that are instinctual, and that's what it was when you wrote it, right? Rather than, like I said, either overthink it or craft it in such a way that it becomes like stale. It read exciting because you were excited to write it, if that makes sense.
Thanks, man.
So it's visual enough, again, without being like point by point. He hits him in the thigh, and then he hits him in the whatever. It's like we don't need all that.
No, I just kind of put myself in that scenario. What would it be like? Most of these things, they're over pretty quick potentially, right?
Right.
We're gonna.
Right. Yeah, and this can go. Yeah, that kind of thing can go on as long as a director would want it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, of course. But these are two guys that know how to fight, so it will be fun. If that makes sense to say it that way. Yeah.
And dude, that was your suggestion, like the whole denouement in there. It's like the fake denouement. That's like, and I think it's beautiful. So,
yeah.
With the torching the surfer's arms, it's beautiful, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a cool image too, because it's like.
Yeah, me too. Kind of the burning down over Penzance. It'll be very key.
Yeah. Yep. So on page 78, Sammy and Jimmy, I think we need a little bit more here.
Yeah.
I think Jimmy should tell Sammy how he knows that it's Sammy.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that then, like, Sammy can go for a weapon, but Jimmy knows about it because obviously he knows Sammy really well. So, like, you can have, like, a hidden dagger or a knife or some little thing, and he's like, don't even think about it. And it's like, Sammy can say, like, are you going to stab me then? You're going to kill me, Jimmy? And Jimmy can say something like, I've done far worse than kill you already. like basically because he's just going to leave him. He's going to leave him in between like the cops and his people.
Well, I wrote a scene in the outline where Jimmy throws a knife at him as he's going away, but it just didn't feel right. But I'm not sure. But it definitely needs a beat prior to explain why Jimmy knows he's betrayed him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure how to write that yet. You got any ideas on that, dude? Anyway, mate,
well,
but it's not another. I need another beat with Sammy that he's potentially an informer to the National Crime Agency, basically.
Right, and I think Jimmy's going to know that. He's going to tell him how in like a simple sentence, and then it's like, but maybe he's not going to kill Sammy because he's like, the Albanians will take care of you. You won't know how and you won't know when.
Yeah, I like that. That's sweet.
I think it's kind of powerful, and it's like it shows that Jimmy has the real power. But it'd be really easy for him to just show up and Jimmy just shoots him, and that's it.
Yeah, that'd be like a Duff ending. I mean, the idea is, that Sammy lives to fight another day, right?
Right, but that's why I like the idea of maybe like you don't know when and you don't know who or how.
Yeah, it's an open-ended thing. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the. So that whole beat, that whole narrative section, it needs thinking through a little bit for to complete the first draft. So there's that, and
but once you get what that hook, if you will, is, then that will smooth that out, and then it's just a matter of weaving it in a little bit more and kind of earning that moment. But
definitely,
I think it's probably more simple than it would be right now if you had to like decide. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'll definitely. So is that there's what's the other thing? Anyway, there's a couple of things that just need weaving in.
Yeah.
For next week.
I think too, as you explore that and you're leading up to that scene in that moment, have it make sense as to why Sammy would take Nina to Jimmy.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
Because I would think that Sammy's smart enough to realize that this might be close to the end. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not for Sammy.
Why would he do that? So I've written it so like it's this kind of moment of loyalty between them. So in the ending I've written. So he does it and he tells Jimmy, you're making a mistake. That's how I've written it.
That would make sense as to then why Jimmy would let Sammy go.
Yeah.
It's that threat of like, you're on my radar, dude. You step one way to the right or to the left, you're gone, kind of thing.
It's this kind of last moment of, well, it's all fucked up, but we'll just let it go. I'll walk away. We'll walk our separate ways. That's how it's written at the moment.
But that kind of works, and maybe he doesn't think necessarily that Jimmy's going to harm Nina, but he's not going to worry about it either. He's going to wash his hands, just leave her be.
So the other thing, whilst we're on that, dude. So the other thing was why would Jimmy harm Nina?
I don't know that he would. I think to me she was leverage for him.
Yeah. So, but that's why I saw it is it's like it's something. Essentially, Tony's taken away what he has, so he's taking away what she has.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
So he's lost he's basically lost everything. His whole business is fucked, and he's also lost her. Right. But the only thing, so it's kind of like a revenge thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only way. To me, it made sense that they would do that.
That makes a lot of sense, and if
because it's such a dramatic thing to do, because he had this relationship with her. I mean, it's got to be credible, isn't it? And then that to me is credible. That's
I would agree. And then he's, almost like a cornered animal. He's against the wall, and so
yeah, exactly. You do stupid things in that position anyway, but that wasn't to me enough that you would do. So it had to be more.
It is if it's leverage, and it is if it's revenge, and like you said, he's going to take the one thing that means something to this this bitch that took him down. You know what I mean? So I think that plays into it. Yeah, that's a huge, and then that will lead up to the moment where then Tony's confronting him, which is great.
So I'll tell you what the final scene is I've written is
Okay.
that there is the confrontation, but instead of him, so essentially Tony jumps onto the boat as he's sailing out of the harbor. He puts it on like auto, just like directs it, and they fight, and they have there's this whole confrontation between the two of them. And it goes down in the cabin where Nina is. Nina is very instrumental in overcoming Jimmy. And in that process, the boat smashes into the harbor wall because there's no one bloody manning it.
Right.
And the boat starts to sink, and it becomes ultimately, that's the kind of final scene. It's like the boat sinking below the waves, and I forget what happens to it. I'll tell you what. Hold on. No, but he still ends up in the water. It's a final scene. So, but there's the boat sinking, and he ends up in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this whole image of the shadow going under the water.
Yeah, which I think makes a lot of sense.
You'll read it next week. I can't even. I think I've had too much Rome, dude.
It's all good. So the only other 2 points that I had were things that you had questions on. So I think another shipment coming in is interesting.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that you don't need to see. It's just alluded to, so it makes sense.
That was the idea to, like, that it's happening, but they plant the idea that they know where it's going to be, but they don't.
Right.
So I'm just not sure how to do that yet, but that's what I thought about being the plant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And then I like the idea of Tony being pregnant because she can use that as the one thing that will stop Jimmy from immediately killing her.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't know and she does it, and then she's got proof, to show him, it's like then he's going to have, even though he's a horrible guy, still he'd have that moment because that's his child. He doesn't have a child of his own,
So where would you make that reveal?
At the confrontation at the end.
Yeah. My God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't have to, but if you want to go that route, that's the one thing, again, that would stop him from just choking the life out of her. Because, yeah, he would have been fine having this little life with Nina and her, but push come to shove, he's going to save himself. He doesn't give a shit about anybody. So.
Yeah. So wow. That reminds me of The Godfather too.
Oh, that's one of my favorite scenes in cinema. It's so powerful.
My God, it's really powerful.
Diane Keaton. She hasn't acted that well, and since then, no, I'm kidding. But that was such a great moment.
Yeah, it was an abortion.
Yeah, one of those Sicilian things.
It just makes me go like this when I think about it.
Yeah. Super
dude,
fun.
Thank you so much. Brilliant notes, as always, dude.
No, of course. And I look forward to reading the end next week and whatever else you come and weave through. So it'll be fun.
Man, thank you so much.
You already have accomplished the thing that you didn't know if you could, and that's getting a strong first draft.
Well, I don't know but dude, it's all thanks to your help, man. So appreciated.
That's what these things are for. That's why the incubator like this is
I bloody love the incubator. Look where we got to. I mean, man, it's what.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, man.
So now you just have to incorporate a werewolf and a middle-aged woman that goes back to college, and we've got a great story. Yeah.
So I was thinking of writing. I had like an idea for writing a comedy horror today, which is basically set in a stately home down in Cornwall. It would be like The Shining meets Downton Abbey.
Oh God, there it is. Great, do it. Right.
What do you think of that as like a comp?
I think it's a great. I would want to know what the hell that movie is, which is a good thing.
So it's basically, the backdrop is class, because basically some rich kids come down to Cornwall to party in a stately home, but it's haunted. And,
Right.
There's this, whatever it is, malevolent power that takes them down. So it's like a class analysis. And anyway.
Like upstairs versus downstairs with weapons.
Yeah, downstairs takes them down.
Well,
What do you think?
Upstairs can be surprisingly vicious, though. Don't underestimate.
Well, it's going to be. Anyway, but what do you think of it as a pitch?
Yeah.
I think it's the beginning of it. It leaves you wanting to know more, and that's what you want in the beginning.
Cool, man.
Yeah, you got me talking.
Right. There you go.
Guys, have a great week.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, everybody. For
Much
you up
appreciated.
there, can enjoy your Memorial Day holiday. And for
It's bank holiday here in the UK. It's Whitsun.
Yeah, someone was trying to tell me what holiday it was, and they couldn't remember. Another.
It's called Whitsun, dude. It's an old pagan festival, of course.
Of course. Yes. Great.
Enjoy your day off, guys.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, enjoy, and we'll see everybody next Sunday.
Ciao.
Bye.